This is actually from Brittany's funeral services. This is her sign-in book that I was going to share with people so they could have a visual of Brittany. I have a lot of different pictures of her, but because that was her obituary picture, and this is actually, this right here is a copy of her obituary, and then it opens up to her picture.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the actual obituary thing. But no, there's a picture. It opens up to the picture, the same picture that's on her.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm.
But the fact that Brittany was in Atlanta for work, she left Columbus, Ohio on Friday night, and by Sunday night, Monday morning, she was dead. She wasn't there a full weekend, and she had just recently graduated through her airline training with Spirit Airlines. She did a 6 weeks training in Las Vegas, and Atlanta was her home base. And then from Atlanta, she was going to be going to Houston on November 1st. So she had graduated August 29th, and not even a full month later of getting out of the program, she was dead. And it's concerning because for somebody to run her down, there was no skid marks, nothing. Because I put in a request to Atlanta police for them to reenact the traffic accident so I could try to determine how fast they were going, because the speed limit in that area is 35 miles per hour. But there's only, when you begin at the beginning of the street, and this is another problem with some of the streets, you don't see the signage. It's either torn down or it's the distance between the first sign or the second one, maybe a couple miles. And so the speed limit for that area is 35 miles per hour. Brittany was 5'9", full grown adult woman. So for me, logically, there would be no reason why an alert driver wouldn't see her crossing the street. And what she had on that night, she had on a black shirt with white letters that said "C'est la vie," and she had on a neon green skirt, which I didn't get any of that back. So her belongings after she had passed, but for them to not have any evidence, nothing fell off the car. They told me that they couldn't collect any evidence from the scene. And she was leaving the venue, which was called the Bonfire, and she had stopped in front of a food truck. And the food that she had in her hand, from my understanding from the witnesses, was sprawled all over the street. But when I got there hours later, that street was wiped clean. There was no evidence of any. So who cleaned up the food? You're saying that it could have been anything. One of her earrings was missing, but it's like there was no evidence to show that she was ever hit, that there was any accident. So I want to be able to talk to those people. What did they find? Any little clue, to me, shouldn't be overlooked. They didn't find any glass, they say. They didn't find nothing fell off a bump or anything, but one of the witnesses said the windshield was smashed, and it looked like a cylinder block had went through that windshield. And that's why I asked the officers to check the junkyards, to see if somebody went to AutoZone or order a part for a Jeep, whether it was green or white, if they were going to use that car again. It could be somebody's neighbor, and not that you're spying on your neighbor, but if this is your neighbor and your neighbor drives a green Jeep and all of a sudden you see that it's wrecked and they're not driving it anymore, you will be curious as to what happened. That could be a clue that you could call into Crime Stoppers, something as simple as that. And so for them meaning the Atlanta police, to not pursue avenues like that. Now, about a month ago, they called me, they meaning the Atlanta police, one of the police chief, and I can't think of his name right now, but I have it written down. He said that they were going to put out a bulletin on Crime Stoppers about Brittany's story. And I didn't hear anything. I haven't checked their website, but to me, if you want to support the family, you would call me and say, well, getting ready to place this on Crime Stoppers, and you can see it and give me the link and everything, but I haven't heard anything back from you to even know that that did happen, you know? So it's just little things like that that I think could make a difference, but they haven't. If I don't call them and follow up, then I won't get anything. And I think if it's an active case, because this person, it's now a murder, because the person, I could see when it first happened, the person being afraid and not saying anything, but it's been more than 6 months and you haven't come forth. So at this point, you're not trying to turn yourself in. And I need them, meaning the police, to actively pursue, finding this perpetrator.
Mm-hmm. And can you just kind of repeat for everybody the highway she was killed on?
It's Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway,
Okay.
in the corner, in the corner of Finley Avenue.
Okay.
And what I've been told by Atlanta Propel, and that's Rebecca's group,
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca Cerna,
Mm-hmm.
that Donald Lee Hollowell is responsible for a third of the deaths in Atlanta.
Mm. And
And oh, I apologize. Go ahead.
I don't know. I was just going to say it was Fulton County, Georgia.
Fulton County.
Yeah,
And for
Zone
me,
1 police, right?
yeah,
Zone 1 police. Okay.
yes, yes. And for that to be the third um, of deaths, a third of deaths are caused on that particular highway. That's enough for the city, the state, somebody, lawmakers to be outraged to say, hey, we need to do something in this area. But instead, my understanding is the state only fixed a portion of the highway, and
Mm-hmm.
which I say is closer to downtown. And they negotiated with the city to do that part because they wanted a partial land that overlapped where the state wanted to do some work.
Mm-hmm.
And I had said at city council, then if you had the power to negotiate it, you should have had them fix the whole highway and not just a portion. Because if
Right.
they wanted the land that bad, they would have done it. And they only did a portion. Now, what kind of sense does that make? You only fix one part and then you leave the rest of it I'll get to it whenever. So, and that didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. And so what you would need from people, you need people to share your story, make noise. I know you're looking for a
Yes,
private investigator and witnesses, right?
yes, witnesses.
Okay. So
Yeah,
we can
because
definitely.
somebody knows something, because there's no
Mm-hmm.
way this long, there's no way that you can tell me that nobody knows anything other than the perpetrator. There's somebody else who knows something.
Right.
And then I wanted to be able to put up a billboard in that area to say pedestrian lives matter. Did you know that Atlanta was number 8 in pedestrian fatalities? My life was taken right here at this corner with a picture of Brittany.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That would get people attention, because people don't know. A lot of people, I understand, her age is probably not looking at the news. Some adults don't look at the news. But when you provide visuals, that can get people attention.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
Um, yeah, I can't think of
No,
anything
that was
right
good.
now.
Thank you for sharing and thank you for being flexible. Sorry about the technical kind of issues that we were having, but what we'll do is we'll edit this and then we'll share it on our page.
Okay. Yeah. I think so. And I think the other piece is the ripple effect of how it impacts families. It's not only, the parents, it's everything and everybody that's connected to the person that left, you know, that whole void, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I have said several times that when they took Brittany's life, they took a generation from me, from us, because she didn't have any children. And we talked about her having children one day, and she said that if she had a daughter, her daughter would be Parker Lynn. Lynn is my middle name,
Okay.
and so um, Parker Lynn I'll never get to see.
Mm-hmm.
I know we can't control what we have, but the fact is that we don't get that opportunity to have that next generation from her bloodline
Mm-hmm.
because it's, a selfish act.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the impact that it has had on our family.
Mm-hmm.
And Brittany was the youngest, so, we still, we still feel that,
Yeah, of course.
and, when I'll say this and then I'll close. When it first happened, I almost couldn't drive myself because when I would drive and I would see people crossing the street, it was a trigger because I'm sitting behind the wheel and saying, I see that person, whether it's a small person or a big person. And I would ask myself as I'm watching this person cross the street, how could they not see Brittany? I'm still trying to figure out how can you not see unless you're under the influence or you're doing something else. That's the only way that you can't see this person, and I had to find myself snapping out of it, or I'm more aware of watching people cross the street or how people are driving, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because I'm still trying to reenact how it could have happened,
Yeah.
because I don't have those answers. But I do thank God for you, and I appreciate you listening to me and our family, because it's not just me; it's my whole entire family. My husband Daryl, um, we're in this journey together. And I just told Courtney, we talk all the time that we have to keep pressing our way. And I don't know how it's going to manifest, but I'm just believing God, and I'm preparing my heart to meet the person or persons who took Brittany's life,
Mm-hmm.
because I just believe that I am going to see them
Amen.
sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I wanted to be that day, but it's been since September. She just had her birthday. She turned 34 March 15th. And it's some days are better than others. But the fact that we know that this fight is much bigger than our children because other people are still dying. And we want to be able to change legislation to say that, yes, pedestrian lives do matter. And it shouldn't have to be a gun or a bomb or anything else. This is just as relevant as those tragedies. And it
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't matter the color or economic background or condition or status that a person is in for us to be able to get a response. And about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, Al Sharpton was on TV talking to Pete Buttigieg about this very same thing about pedestrian fatalities.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, then they need to trickle it down to the state levels, and just instead of on the federal level and talking about it, just let the rubber meet the road and, put your, boots on the ground and make this change happen, because it doesn't take a whole lot to do it.